dreamt of driving a huge, black, elegant car. I was thinking of how easy it was to drive that car in spite of being how big the car was. The feeling I had in the dream was a feeling of relaxation and joy. I was astonished over how easy it was to drive. I enjoyed the dream. Often I heard dreaming of cars is a picture of one's ministry. What do you say?
Well, it can be, and as I said earlier, sometimes it also speaks about what work you do. People who are called into business will obviously not, will still dream about cars, but it's not about their ministry, but it is about the thing that God wants them to do and He's asking them to do. So just an interesting thing, it's a big black car, it's elegant, but now this is interesting because black has two connotations to it. So black isn't just evil and stuff that is sinful or death. But black can actually speak about mystery. So if you have a dream about something black and you think, I dreamt about something black, but I had a positive connotation in my dream and the context felt good, then it's not necessarily talking about something bad, but I could be talking about mystery. So Anitha, I feel possibly you do have a ministry, because it's you feel in your context that's what you're asking about, one's ministry. So I suspect that there is a ministry, and the car is big and elegant, so it feels like it's luxurious and it has lots of room for other people to fit into it, and you're not finding it difficult to steer this ministry or do this ministry. You actually find it joyful and enjoyable, and you actually find it relaxing. So it's a dream about how you engage and your type of ministry, which could be a bit different to what other people have. So and it's joyful to you, and it's large enough to carry others. So I hope that helps, and I hope that helps you understand the context of that dream. But context is always important in dreams. So if you were happy in the dream, how did you feel? If the dream felt dark and difficult, then the black might have a different connotation. If it was difficult to steer, it would have a different connotation. So that's always important, right? So
I just want to add something in on the end of that one. Is
Good.
that all right? Go. Done. Yeah, it's that's the interpretation, and it's quite an interesting because it's just a picture of a thing. There's not much of a progression from this to that to that. So it's the question then becomes, well, what's the implication of that, right? God's given you this dream because He wants to show you something, but what does He want your response to be about that? Do you know what that ministry is? Do you go like, yeah, I know what that is. That's this thing I'm doing right now. So if it is that, and you do know what it is, then it would be like, okay, where do you want me to take this? What do you want me to do with it, God? Is there somewhere I need to go? Is there somebody I need to pick up? There's something I need to include in this joyful, luxurious, relaxing experience. If you don't know what it is, it's like, what is this? How am I going to find this thing, God? Like, what are you trying to show me? What should I be looking for? Often dreams, or if you don't know, dreams orient you towards a possibility that God's drawing you into. And so then in the next case, if you just say that, okay, show me what this is, within a couple of weeks, you'll go, oh, okay. You'll get involved with a conversation, and then you'll, like about 6 hours later, you'll go, oh yeah, that relates back to that dream. I've lost count of the number of times that's happened with us.
That's
right?
happened a lot.
Sometimes
the Holy Spirit will bring back to memory a dream where you've had that thing, and then He'll highlight it. And this is what I love about the Holy Spirit. He's always there, and He always is so keen to talk to us and show us the things on His heart. So dreams have been coming back to me recently, and I'm like, thank goodness I wrote that down and I stewarded that correctly, because wow, that's what that means.
Yeah.
And there's always layers, and it will always come back. Should we do the second dream?
Yep.
So just to add a bit of cultural context to minibus taxis in South Africa, a friend and I always used to catch a minibus taxi from where she was in her house to everywhere. They come around often. They're a real cultural element in South Africa. They're part of everyday life, and so they're quite an interesting element in a dream. So if I read Renee's dream out, would you mind giving us what you think it is?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to.
So in my dream, says Renee, there were two vehicles, a bus and a minibus taxi. I was on board the bus. On this bus, the driver and the passengers were laughing at me because of something I had said. Then, in my humiliation, I got off the bus, and the word came to me in the dream was mockers. As I sat at the bus stop waiting for another bus, a taxi, which is the minibus taxi, pulled up, and the driver of the taxi was my former pastor. She does mention her former pastor, but I'm just going to leave it out because it's probably good to remain anonymous on stuff like that. And when I got up on board this taxi, people flocked, and then suddenly it was too full to overflow. So I assume that she couldn't get on the bus at that time, Renee. I think you probably couldn't get on the taxi because there was too many people that had flocked to it, and it was full to overflow. And you were mentioned that there were people that had left the church, and it was older people that had left the church. So I assume you don't get onto that taxi. You're welcome to say if I'm on the right track here. Then there was a second taxi that pulled up, but there were many teenagers on board. So you felt, I sat discouraged, and I realized it was getting late. So I decided to walk. And as I was walking, it started to rain. I thought to myself, should I turn back or keep walking, as it seemed very far to go?
Okay, that's a really interesting dream. So this dream's different from the first one. Let's think about that to start off with. The first one is like, if you think about it like a movie, the first one was a movie of one scene. The dreamer is in the car and driving, and she describes that. Now, this is like this to that, and to that, and then to that. So there's kind of four parts to this dream. In the first part, there were two vehicles. Remember, we're talking about the minibus taxi and the bus. Buses are slightly bigger, and minibus taxis are smaller and designed to take less people. And they can often refer to other people's ministries. And I think that's what this is talking about, actually. I think it's talking about some negative experiences of being in church fellowships. The first one, it's in the dream. There has been the dreamer has had an experience where she said something, probably that was kind of heartfelt, actually, because if it was just a thing, you just go, oh, yeah, that was just somebody laughed at me, so what, you know? If I was talking about something that was inconsequential, so she probably said something quite heartfelt, and has been laughed at because of that. And it may be that she's felt that that's stuck, and that people are going to mock her, and she's been mocked, and so she's got off that bus, right, which has kind of left that fellowship. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing, it's just what's happened. Then another taxi has pulled up, and it was her former pastor. So she got to board the taxi, but it was full to overflowing. So it feels like there's no room to be heard in this taxi, or to even find a seat, like to take your place in this taxi. So it felt like she's kind of being squeezed out. There's just no room for me. So she hasn't got on board of that one, right? The people flocked. It was full to overflow. The people ran toward the bus, but people had left the church, and it was the older generation. So she hasn't got on board with them and the former pastor. Then there was a second taxi that pulled up. So again, this is talking about another spiritual fellowship that she's been looking like, well, maybe I should join this one. But there were so many teens on board. So there's a cultural dissonance where it's like, well, this is like a young person's church, and I just don't. Hey, I'm not feeling called into this church. I don't feel like I can give or get what I am called to in this place. And so all of these experiences have left her feeling like, well, I'm just going to have to walk. And walking often talks about, we talk about our walk with the Lord, right? It's a fundamental Christian metaphor. So she's having to walk by herself, which is like, well, so this dreamer may not be in an official church fellowship at the moment, but is walking with God. But it feels quite difficult because she's asking, it's like, this just seems like such a long way to go. And it's like, it's really hard work. And it started raining. Now, raining can be a good thing or a bad thing, right? you want to talk about that?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I interpreted a dream of somebody who had dreamt it was raining, and actually the connotation of rain is very important, because rain is actually a blessing in the Bible and in the Middle East. Rain is actually a blessing, and if we think about the drought that happened in South Africa recently, when the rain came, it was a blessing. So maybe you perceive it as difficult, you're getting wet, but I wonder if God's saying, I am blessing you in your walk. The rain is coming on you, but He is blessing you in your walk. And just remember, He never leaves or forsakes you. So He is with you in your walk, and not to feel discouraged. I don't know if that helps, Renee, or if that rings true. You're welcome to say if that witnesses. And yeah.
But I think it's a dream, and you can get these dreams. I've had like a lot of dreams which have been about difficulties in my experience, but there's a note of hope in it, and God's saying something that's quite hopeful about it. And that's how I would read this dream. Like that interpretation of yours of rain is saying, keep walking. God's blessing you in your walk. It feels difficult, but it's the thing He has for you right now. If He has another bus or a taxi or something else which comes along, or even maybe an aeroplane will land and you'll get on it, or a helicopter will arrive for you, you can always have another dream which can tell you about these things. We go to sleep every night, there'll be another dream along tomorrow.
Ask for dreams. That's what we do. We ask for dreams. We say, Lord, give us a dream. Is there something you want to say? You had one recently where you were asking for direction on whether to take a job.
Yeah.
And God sent you a dream after 3 nights, and it was clear what God was saying.
That's a whole story.
Ask for dreams. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But you know what I love is now Mona Smith has sent us a dream where the taxi, the minibus taxi, has a different connotation, and I love this dream because it's so positive. All right. Okay. Renee says, "Well, thank you. Spot on." I'm so glad, Renee.
Yeah,
Blessings
I'm
to
really
you.
Glad. Blessings to you.
Okay.
I'm going to read this one out.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is from Mona. Thanks, Mona. You dreamt you were standing on the sidewalk in front of my previous front door neighbor's gate, right? My previous front neighbor's gate, and you were waiting. I turned around and said to myself, I must move away from his gate, as he is up to nonsense. I moved to his neighbor's gate, so I assume that's like another one down. I then saw this dirty water in front of the gate, but more in the street. The water was trying to pull me in, but I kept on pulling myself away from it. As I kept on pulling myself away from this dirty, green, sluggish water, it struck me that I saw this before and tried to remember where and when. Then a white minibus appeared and stopped in front of me, and I realized I was actually waiting for the minibus. I got on the minibus and saw that it was this was big on the inside, more like a train compartment, and there was no place to sit, so I stood in the minibus. I realized as we pulled away that I had no money to pay. The driver, whom I couldn't see, never even asked me for money. I was searching in my mind the whole trip how I was going to pay. Do you want to talk about it?
It's a fantastic dream. So you know your neighbor's up to no good. Who's your neighbor? It could be your neighbor. It could be other people in your life who you're relating to, people from your church, people from your community. So there's somebody, and they are up to no good. They're up to no nonsense. They're up to nonsense. So you see dirty water. Now, often water is about a mixture. So flowing water is good, like John said earlier, it's about the spirit, but dirty, green, sluggish water has got mud in it, and often green means that water is infected. So green could mean that there's bacteria in it, it's not flowing. It's usually green water is standing water that's been left there too long, and it definitely breeds very bad stuff. So you feel this water's trying to pull you in, and but you resisting it. You know there's something of mixture that these people are trying to pull you into, and you're like, no, I'm not going to get pulled into this. And just then, actually what I found interesting is it struck you that you tried to remember that you'd seen this before, and you were trying to remember it. So it speaks about your prophetic nature. You have a prophetic sense of stuff. And so that's really important, is that God speaks to you prophetically, and you knew that this thing was trying to pull you in, and he'd given you a sense of it before. Then a white minibus appeared and stopped right in front of you. So now, I mean, I love this. My sense is that it is a spiritual conduit. I don't know, it could be a ministry that's picked you up, but I feel it's a ministry that God has blessed and really, really brought your way. And this, you don't even have to look for it. It just comes, and it's right in front of you, and God's bringing it, and he's bringing it to come and rescue you from a situation where you could get influenced in a negative way, and he doesn't want that. And the reason you can't see the driver is because I believe it's either an angel, it could be Jesus, it is some spiritual being that has come to rescue you and make sure you get taken out of a situation he does not want you to pay in. And the most interesting thing is you do not have to pay any money. You're wondering, oh, do I have to pay? But I really believe that God is saying, no, you don't have to pay. I'm actually getting you from the place where you are to the place where I'm taking you to in your destiny on this minibus. And interesting, the minibus is white. Now, I know a lot of minibuses are white, but I feel that this is a righteous vehicle. This is a vehicle God sent to get you out of a difficult situation. And I believe it's angelic help. And it could be in the form of a ministry, maybe a small ministry of people helping you get out of a very difficult situation. So, Mona, I hope that helps you. I'm not sure if you're with us, but if that witnesses, you can put on the comments later if that has helped you, and if it witnesses with you.
I just had a little couple of thoughts in on the end of that one.
Brilliant.
I mean, that's a really good interpretation. I also think that again, it's kind of an implication of this. You're on this minibus, which is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. So that might refer to, like, if you know what it's like when you go to, like, say you go to a new house group, and it just looks like it's like maybe it's 4 or 5 people, and they're not like big shots in a church or anything like that. You just think, oh, it's a house group, I'll see how it goes, and you find that they're really spiritually mature, right? And it's a lot bigger on the inside when you experience it than it looks on the outside. So there's a sense of it about that whatever this situation is, whether it's a spiritual conduit or whether it's a small fellowship, it's like it's more mature and it's spiritually bigger than it looks from the outside. But there's also a sense of this about it's unusual, right, for a minibus not to have seats. That is an unusual dream element, right? So you're worrying about how you're going to pay for this, what it's going to cost you, and it's not going to cost you anything, but you do have to stand, right? So it's not going to cost you anything, but the message is you've got to stand, which is having stood, then stand. It's like you've got to, and when you stand for something, there's something in your life you've got to go, no, this is what God's called me to, this is where he wants me, this is the right thing to do in this situation, I'm going to stand for it, and that's what you have, that's the cost in a way of you being on this minibus.
Yeah,
right?
That's good. You're good at this.
Thanks. So are you. Okay, let's go. Hannah's Hope.
Yes, so I'll read this out. Hannah's Hope, I don't know if Hannah is your name, but I'll just call you Hannah because that's what your name on the group is. Says that she's had a whole lot of different dreams, and they're about different modes of transport that she's really struggling with. So in the bike one, she says she's riding a bike home from a friend. The bike becomes more and more difficult to get going. She's working hard, and then eventually she stops and realizes that both her tires are flat. Now, the tires flat was a question earlier on with somebody had posted, so it'd be lovely you deal with that one. And then the train one, it's a different dream, but it's a very similar sense of what's going on. In the train one, I leave work and queue for a train. The only available train can drop me about 5 kilometers from my actual home, but I take it anyway. I ask various people if they can lift me from my station to my house. None can. I try to phone my dad to fetch me. My phone dies. I ask to borrow a phone. It does not get through. And so that's the one about a train. So this is, God is clearly speaking to you in these dreams. Then in the one about a car, she drives her car into town where she parks up. I go shopping in a mall, and when I come out, my car has been stolen. I realize this after frantically searching for my car for hours. And now this is quite important, Hannah, because you're saying your dreams are ongoing week after weeks. And so I feel that God really is speaking to you in these dreams, and he deeply cares about helping you understand what he's saying. So shall you get going on that one?
Yeah, I'll get going on that one. Again, you think about what it would be like if you experience this in real life. It's pretty tough stuff, right? So let's try and understand what it might mean, right? So the first one about the bike. I'm riding a bike home from a friend. So it's that sense of trying to get home, right? Now home, and it's a personal thing. So it's from a friend. I'm trying to get home, and the bike becomes more and more difficult to get going. I'm working so hard. Home often as a destination can talk about a heavenly home, or getting to kind of the next thing that God has for you. If you're going home, it's I have a ministry, it's my home, it's kind of who I am, it's what I do. So you're trying to get to that sense of home on a bike, which we've said is a very kind of, it's a personal effort. And you think about a bike, I mean, we were riding our bikes yesterday. It's like you go step, 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 step. It goes round and round. It's your legs. You're putting quite a lot of effort in to making this thing going. But it becomes more and more difficult, and you realise both the tyres are flat. Now, tyres are interesting. We have a phrase, right? When we talk about an idea that we have and whether it'll work in real life, we talk about, well, that's where the rubber meets the road, right? And a tyre is where the rubber meets the road. So tyres are often about traction and the ability of a thing to move forward, but they're inflated. So it's got that part of it as well. The inflation is air, which is spirit and breath, pneuma as the Greek calls it, right? And we also have a phrase that goes around the church saying the grace has run out for this thing, right? I've got no energy left. I've got no grace from God. I've got no spirit, no pneuma, no breath left to keep going with this thing. And so there's that sense of you're trying to do something in this, which is a lot of hard work anyway, and it's just got harder and harder because the spiritual resources, either in your own spirit or the Spirit of God, is not in it where it meets reality, where the rubber hits the road. So that's kind of what that first one means. The train, I leave work and queue for a train. So work can often talk about spiritual business or business. So you've left, you might have stepped out of a work, it could be a job or it could be a ministry even, and you're waiting for a train. So you're waiting for another church or something to come along, but the only one can take you 5 kilometers from your home. So it's a bit like that other dream about the first one. It's like this is not really the right, where the taxis were overstuffed. It's a similar kind of metaphor. It's saying this is not the right train for me. It's not really going to take me where I know I should be going, but it's a train, and 5 kilometers is quite a long way from your home and from where you're going, right? Not being able to phone, and often a phone, especially if it's a mobile phone, is communication which goes through the air. So it talks about spiritual communication, and not being able to get through is like, I'm praying about this thing, but I'm just not getting any answers. I can't seem to get through to God. I can't seem to reach him. There's nothing coming back. I don't understand why. I try and get somebody else to pray for me. Can you use your phone? Please, can you pray for me about this subject? But that doesn't seem to work either, and you can't get an answer, and the phone said the phone dies, right?
Yeah, so I mean, can I just pop in just really quickly? Usually when I have a dream about a phone and trying to get hold of my dad, I had one of these recently, and in the dream I was really just, at that time, I really just couldn't hear what God was wanting me to do or where he was wanting me to go. And I realized that after a period that I'd actually been perceiving what God was saying through fear or desire. So I wanted God to say a certain thing, but I was fearful he would say another thing. And so it's really important in these dreams that you can ask for clarity and say, look, God, am I missing something? Is there something I'm afraid of that I can't see, something that you want to show me? We are running out of time, so I don't know, we've got a few more dreams to interpret. I don't know if you want us to go on, or if we should I don't know if you want to continue. We'll continue another 5 minutes or so, but yeah, so I'm not sure.
So let's just wrap this one up, right? So all of those speak about not being able to get where you're going for different reasons, right? And that's what it's talking about. That I'll leave out the last bit because it talks about a similar thing, but like a stolen car. Like if it comes to anything getting stolen, the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So you know that there's something going on with the enemy there. But again, having parked something is you've stopped it moving. It's the same kind of like of having got out of something. It's stopped. It's not moving, right?
So what should she do?
What should she do?
Because she says here, help.
Help. Now this is where you have an interpretation and then you have an implication, right? And I think the implication of this is that all of this is all talking about things you're doing to move forward, not really getting you where you're going, things you're intending towards. I'm thinking about joining a church. I'm thinking about riding a bicycle. That's my own efforts. You said you prayed about, well, you haven't. You said the dream says you prayed about it because of the phone, right? And that hasn't worked. So the first go-to would be like, take this to God, right? But you already done that and nothing's come back. And we know what that's like because we've been in that situation in our lives where you've got a dominant issue that you're trying to move forward on, so nothing seems to happen. And there's a kind of a principle that often God doesn't want to talk to us about the thing we really want him to. He wants to talk to us about something else. And so that would be like, for me, that would be the advice. Have we gone off? No, we're still on.
No, we're still on.
Right. That would be the implication here, is stop trying to travel and just sit before God, but without asking him about this thing you're trying to move forward in, and let him come to you. Sometimes we have to let the means come to us and just sit and wait. So I'd say pursue an intimacy with God just in this time for himself, and not about this thing which is dominating your dream life, because you say it keeps coming up over and over.
What I'd like to do just really quickly is I like Jennifer Gallard said, I had a dream about a big 4x4 with a canopy parked in front of a big forest of trees. I asked, what does this mean? And I heard, I will supply the means for you to do what I need you to do. Yes, that's a really good dream. A 4x4 is an off-roader. It's somewhere that can take you off the beaten track. I don't know if God's calling you to do something that's off the beaten track, something different. A forest of trees is dealing with people, and tall trees often speak about leaders. Think about Nebuchadnezzar's dream where he gets chopped down as a tall tree. So God is saying you're going to go off road, but he's going to give you the means to do this unusual thing that he has for you. And a 4x4, again, there's the number 4, the number of the earth, and 4x4, you're going to be traveling on the earth, doing something with people, but it's going to be something different and that's not been pioneered before. It's a pioneering work. So I don't know if that helps you, Jen, and hopefully that has spoken and helped you understand. So I think we should probably end here, and we hope this has encouraged people. If anybody has any thoughts on people's dreams, you're more than welcome to post them. I believe God is wanting to activate everybody else in the group and also help them to encourage others. So if any of these dreams you've read out, if the Holy Spirit impresses you anything on you, for any of the people like Jennifer Gallard, for Renee, and for everybody else, then please do post your thoughts and within the context of what we've been speaking about. I really hope this has helped you to understand and see how God can really speak very clearly to us in transport.
Yeah. Jennifer here said, I'm trying to get my art business going. I believe God wants me to use it for him. I'd say that could very well be what this is referring to. It's a pioneering thing. Not a lot of people do it. Think about the canopy. Canopy is a covering. It can be a spiritual covering, like you've got a pastor or a mentor, but it could also be God saying, I've got you covered. I've got this ministry covered. If it's covering over the back, it's like everything you need is covered. So think about it in like terms of wordplay. It's about whatever's being covered by that canopy is quite important, and I hope that gives you a confidence to pioneer this thing. Last thought be, when you pioneer something in a 4x4 through the trees, often you can only see the next step ahead of you. You're not going to see the grand plan traveling through the trees. So it's about being obedient to him as he leads you step by step, because that's how you drive a 4x4 through a forest, right?